It's the nightmare scenario we all hope never comes to pass: a supervolcano eruption. A force of nature so immense, so catastrophic, that it could change the very course of life on Earth. But the terrifying truth is, it could happen tomorrow, next week, or in the distant future. What if it happens today? How would humanity survive the most explosive event our planet can produce? A supervolcano is no ordinary eruption. These massive forces of destruction are far beyond the scale of typical volcanic activity. Imagine an eruption so powerful that it could blanket entire continents with ash, darken the skies for years, and disrupt the global climate in ways we can barely comprehend. The sheer scale of destruction would be so vast that it could reshape entire ecosystems, obliterate civilizations, and challenge the very survival of humankind. There's a chilling reality that's hard to ignore. The supervolcanoes we fear today aren't just ancient relics from a forgotten past. They still exist. The most famous of these ticking time bombs is the Yellowstone caldera. This massive underground supervolcano has erupted multiple times over the course of history, each time with devastating consequences. While the chances of it erupting in our lifetime are slim, the possibility is real, and it's a possibility that scientists are racing to understand. What would happen if Yellowstone or any other supervolcano erupted today? The initial impact of a supervolcano eruption would be nothing short of apocalyptic. The ground would tremble violently as earthquakes rip through entire regions. The eruption itself would spew tens of thousands of cubic kilometers of molten rock, ash, and gas into the atmosphere, enough to block out the sun and create a global winter. In the aftermath, the skies would turn a sickly shade of gray, choked with ash that would drift across the globe, bringing devastating consequences to the climate. For months, even years, the Earth would be plunged into darkness. Without sunlight, temperatures would plummet, creating volcanic winter, where crops would fail, food would be scarce, and the very air we breathe would be toxic. Acid rain would fall from the skies, poisoning lakes, rivers, and soil, making fresh water a luxury few could afford. Cities would be covered in ash, and the infrastructure we rely on, roads, power grids, and hospitals, would be crippled. It would be an unimaginable scenario where survival becomes a daily struggle, and the world as we know it could be forever changed. But the devastation wouldn't stop there. The eruption would trigger massive tsunamis, as violent waves surge across the oceans, swallowing coastlines and leaving millions of people stranded. The destruction would be widespread, not just confined to the immediate blast zone, but stretching to the farthest reaches of the globe. Countries that thought they were safe would soon find themselves grappling with the aftermath: food shortages, the collapse of trade networks, and the breakdown of social order. Governments would struggle to maintain control, and the true scale of the disaster would only begin to sink in as the days, months, and years unfold. In this world, survival would no longer be a given. The challenges of living in a world ravaged by a supervolcano would be unlike anything we've ever experienced. Agriculture, the backbone of our food supply, would be destroyed by the ash clouds, while crops that managed to survive would be in short supply. With no crops, there's no food. Without food, people would begin to fight for survival. Cities once filled with millions of people would descend into chaos. Water would become a precious commodity, as rivers and lakes are tainted with ash and chemicals, and every drop would be fought over. There would be no easy answers. The scale of the disaster would stretch the capabilities of even the most advanced societies. Infrastructure would be torn apart, cities would be abandoned, and supply chains would collapse. Nations, once united by trade and diplomacy, would find themselves isolated and struggling to meet the most basic needs of their citizens. Hospitals and medical centers would be overwhelmed with the sick and injured, while search and rescue efforts would be rendered almost impossible by the sheer magnitude of the destruction. The question we must ask is, can we survive such an event? Can we prepare for the unimaginable? The answer lies in our ability to anticipate and respond. The key to survival may lie in mitigation strategies, building cities and infrastructure that can withstand the impact of earthquakes and ash fall, creating systems to filter and purify water, and developing technology to monitor volcanic activity more effectively. It's a race against time, but the problem is, no one knows when or where the next supervolcano eruption will strike. Preparedness is critical, but it's not just about building shelters or having stockpiles of food and water. It's about international collaboration. In the event of a supervolcano eruption, no single nation would be able to handle the aftermath alone. The devastation would require a global response, countries coming together to help each other, to share resources and to support each other in a time of unprecedented crisis. Could humanity rise to the challenge? What's even more chilling is the fact that supervolcanoes are not isolated events. There are other supervolcanoes around the world: Toba in Indonesia, Campi Flegrei in Italy, and Lake Taupo in New Zealand, all of which have erupted in the distant past and could erupt again. The Earth's tectonic plates are constantly shifting, and the ground beneath us is alive with the possibility of these explosive eruptions. While we may not be able to predict when or where the next eruption will take place, the fact that these supervolcanoes exist is a reminder of just how fragile our existence on this planet truly is. So, what are the risks we face? As we continue to expand our cities and populate vulnerable regions, we're becoming more susceptible to the devastating effects of a supervolcano eruption. The threat is real, and it's not something we can simply ignore. Understanding these risks, preparing for the worst, and taking steps to reduce our vulnerability to such disasters are our only options. The global response to supervolcano threats will be critical, not just for our survival, but for the future of the planet. Supervolcanoes are among nature's most powerful forces. They are unpredictable, unstoppable, and devastating. But perhaps, in the face of such colossal threats, we can rise above our limitations. By learning more, preparing smarter, and collaborating globally, we can ensure that if and when the unimaginable happens, humanity will endure. The question remains, are we ready for the day when the Earth changes forever?